Welcome to the Multiverse Comics Podcast. In today's episode, you've got Jason and Steven and Scott all talking about the Absolute Universe, starting with Absolute Batman #1.
Which I haven't read yet.
Which you haven't read.
No.
All right. We'll talk about it a little bit, and we won't spoil it too badly. I love this comic. It is such a complete book. A lot of times you'll get these origin stories. Actually, in fact, the Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Superman are very clearly one of a bazillion, one of whatever. The story is not concluded at all. It feels like the intro to a story on those. You get enough of who the characters are, but you don't get like good resolution of the major conflict. In Absolute Batman, there's a greater conflict, but you get resolution to the immediate conflict that he's in. He just doesn't know about the bigger conflict that's out there yet. And you get introduction to all the characters, and you get a real feel for who he is and what he's about in the most succinct way I've ever seen. Like, it's such a well done comic. The artwork is beautiful. Like, the first time that you see Batman in action, the color and the dynamic sort of leap that he has coming off of building down into the fray with the bad guys is just extraordinary. I really like relatively realistic art. I tend to like that. This is not that. It's quite artistic in the way that it's done. It's very, Tim Sale has a very stylistic look, and others have very stylistic looks. This is a very sort of stylistic book in the way that it's drawn, but it tells the story really well. And the story starts off, you've got a narrator. That narrator, as it turns out, is our friend Alfred. He tells you in the first page, Bruce is different. Batman didn't grow up wealthy. He grew up poor. His parents were teachers. We find out along the way that both of his parents didn't die. His dad did. And we find out that he is still a mama's boy. He's
just getting
there.
spoilers. I think I'm going to have to leave the room. Oh, you're just telling everything.
I think that was early on. That's early in the book. I read it yet.
I haven't read it.
All right. Do you want to pause and go read it, and then we'll come back?
No. You guys talk about it. I'll step out.
Here's what I'll make some comments without revealing the story. What I've noticed, first off, is that the way the artist draws Batman, other than one panel, you don't ever see lower part of his jaw.
Yeah,
you don't see any flesh tones. It's all they do a very good job of hiding all of his features in the shadow.
Right.
Like right there.
Yeah.
I'm turning the panel around. I will admit right off the bat, and I want everyone, when they read it, to kind of look at it, and I can tell you how to make a mistake. There is a point in time that Batman pulls out what looks like bolt cutters to me.
Okay.
And he swings it down to the right, and suddenly it's an axe. I did not realize that until I went back and looked at the panel where they changed color, that he used it to clip onto the front of his symbol. And so he is jumping around doing all this.
The bat axe.
Yeah, with the bat axe. He's jumping around with this solid place. But this also goes back to other writers have said Batman uses that as a target.
Yes.
If that's an axe, then that's steel on his chest, and he's not relying on Kevlar. So this is some kid that went and took a fender off a car
metal,
and cut it and stuck it on there and figured out how to make a retractable axe.
Right.
I think that's kind of interesting. Without giving away spoilers, this also, the art reminds me of David from Batman Year One. David, I always butcher his name. Yeah, I always butcher his name. From the page layout to in Batman Year One, you really focus on the Falcone family and some things like that. So there's definitely telling stories from that. And then off in the shadows, you see Bruce putting on his gear, getting ready to go do Batman stuff. So they also use the Dark Knight layout of, there's a lot of talking head news recounting Batman's activity.
Yeah.
So you're hawking Frank Miller.
I wondered about that because the size of Batman, the way he's drawn in the previews and that, he's freaking huge.
Well, and
we haven't seen a Batman quite like that, I think, since.
And you get to see him working. You get to see him working out, and I like the way that they have purposed his rogues gallery.
Yeah, okay.
Because there are some subtle. The guy that owns the gym he's working out in is his childhood friend who ended up being Killer Croc. And his pet is an alligator that he's holding on to.
The gym's called Croc.
Yes. Yeah. There's a Goonies picture where it's all of them as kids, and it's Selena, Eddie. You get that they all grew up together.
Right.
Black Mask is a very an interesting turn on what they're doing with Black Mask.
And I don't fully get the bad guys, like the big bads that are with Black Mask. There's another party there that I don't know what they are. Maybe alien in nature. I don't know what they are.
Yeah,
exactly.
I almost thought Atlantean.
Maybe. It was very Cthulhu-y, like with the weird floating baby with the mask on. And they're super bad. Like the bad guys are like children over the top bad.
But I do enjoy Alfred's narration.
Okay.
To me, he comes again, once again, no surprise he's an ex-military.
Yeah.
But it almost has a Slade Wilson vibe to it. There may be something more to his skill set. He seems a little more formidable than somebody that just has top-notch military training.
Okay.
And he's probably the best character in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he's really great.
I too, without spoilers, because I don't want you to read it and enjoy it. It is definitely, so far, the best redo of a Batman that I've sat through in a while.
Okay.
I'm going into this with all three of them with the idea of, okay, so at some point everything's going to come to a head and this absolute verse is going to be no more.
Right.
I was fooled, and it took John and Jason both to straighten me out, where at the beginning it says part 1 of 5. So I assumed this was a 5-issue hop.
Okay.
Pointed out to me it's probably a 5-episode story for trade paperbacks, because Superman doesn't land on Earth until issue 6.
Okay.
This time next year, I expect us to be talking about how the absolute verse wrapped up.
Right.
Just like I said, the ultimate verse is going to wrap up. I mean, Hickman's already left Spider-Man. I didn't catch that. It's still good, but Hickman's off Spider-Man. I saw it in the Marvel coming up, so I don't know if this last one he wrote or not. I'm still enjoying it, but I'm reading the ultimate verse to see how that all, how do we come after the creator?
Right.
And get Marvel Prime knows he's out there. How do we do the same thing here? I personally have no interest in a Wonder Woman from hell. I really don't. As far as a continued character I want to read for the next 20 years.
Right.
I do have an interest in, this is a new take that's going to give me more Dark Side or something with the Legion, or because once again, these characters are not going to take over the Prime spots. This is not
right.
Unless
my hope is that it's like an ultimate universe.
Unless, and I'll say this, if this becomes, all of these start outselling their parent comics, if I'm selling more absolute Batman than all the Batman titles combined, and I can do that for a while, then this is your Batman.
Yeah.
No one's going to, Warner Brothers isn't going to turn away from, if that Superman is outselling every Superman book, and you're going to see our Superman get trapped under a heavy rock, and this kid shows up, and that's what it is.
It's always difficult because you've got,
but they're good. Negative. No, it's good stuff.
It's not a negative, because if it's selling, then that means it's successful, and if it's successful, that's oxygen going into
the whole industry.
Yeah, exactly. And that was always kind of it was like the best thing about the Ultimate Universe, and kind of the worst thing is that when your ultimate version of the character is the one that everyone's falling in love with, and your mainstream or your mainstay character, people are like, yeah, who cares? Then it's that challenge of, do we just abandon the old one and go with the new? It's always going to be a tough line to walk.
We actually had someone that watched Jason's podcast about when he first read Absolute Batman, and he came in specifically because Jason had done the promo.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Walked in and said, hey, your manager, your owner, someone did a video, and I saw it on your website. I didn't know about this Absolute Batman. Sorry, over here. And then we got to talking about this, and he was trying to out comic trivia me. Yep. And he was like, talking about the original Ultimate, he was on nothing ever good ever came of that. It was all crap, blah, 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 blah.
Miles.
Blah. That's what I said. I said, no, there's one good thing came out of it. I said, you a Miles Morales fan? He goes, yeah. I said, that was the Ultimate. That was Ultimate. He was like, it was? I said, yeah. Said you're right. Duplicating characters and trying to change him up to Batman was a Heinz ketchup fan, and in this universe, he likes Hunts. Okay, yeah. I get
Also, the Captain America we got in the movies was Ultimate Cap.
kind of
don't
started
know, I'd agree
off.
with
I mean, he's not as aggressive. He's not the Marine,
He's kind
but
of
but you never saw,
dick in the Ultimate.
but in the first Cap movie, you saw him using guns and stuff, which we never saw.
right.
Steve Rogers class.
We
I
also
get
got
where
the opening to Winter Soldier was straight out of
jumping out. That one
Ultimate,
scene jumping out
right,
of it.
yeah.
But so he was like, oh, okay. So I said, so with all of this, because I was telling him, he even said, do you think this is going to outdo the Batman? Because he remembers the I Am Batman comic.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not. I said, here's why you want to read this. I said, did you read All In? He goes, I haven't gotten it, but I just finished Absolute Power. I said, get this, All In,
Yeah.
read that. And the goal here is to see how the story's going to end. How are we going to get Darkseid? So I said, Darkseid's not gone. Darkseid's
Right.
coming back.
Yes.
You're going to enjoy these stories. But I said, there's going to be one or two issues, or you may not like their take on Wonder Woman. But the idea is that the idea is that this is the universe with evil energy created by Darkseid. If I fall in love with the evil energy versions of these heroes, that kind of flies in the face of the anti-hero and all that. So you want to see, I said, there's a classic superhero team that shows up in All In, because I didn't want to ruin about the Legion. Darkseid, they're eventually going to slug this all out. I said, and 10 years from now, someone will come back and go, hey, I want to do that Absolute Batman again. Because I said, God help us, this might be someone's first Batman comic.
Yes. Right. That's very true.
And hopefully they get this and go, almost what the classic guy looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of this day, it is about, I want some decent stories, but I also know I might have to put up with a little hokiness to get to. Jim Corrigan's not going to be gone forever.
Yeah.
How are we going to bring him back?
Yeah.
The Justice Society didn't disappear in Ragnarok forever. How are we going to get them back? We're going to call that 0 Hour, kids. There's, and I can't guarantee that it's going to be classic high quality, but that's the whole. I'm not reading Absolute Batman because I want a replacement for my Prime Universe Batman. I'm reading it because I want to see what the hell's going on with this universe and how's it going to get straightened out. That's me personally.
I liked both. The way that I'm reading it, I actually am seeing it. You know how in the movies they keep trying to like Marvel or DC, like they keep trying to like make everybody a little darker, a little edgier, give people more of a conflict they have to deal with. So they're trying to Marvel the DC universe, and DC is like this bright, hopeful sort of thing. I think what they're doing is they're setting up these two universes that are the antithesis of one another. All In, we haven't talked much about the All In part. The All In books that are coming out, they're just like as much leaned into the core of the hope and positive, all the things, reaching into the roots of the characters, pulling up stuff, Mark Waid's action that's come out now, so I can talk about it. It's definitely reaching into the roots of Krypton, Phantom Zone, old characters that he pulls back from lore from back in the day. It's very much what you expect Mark Waid to do in every book that he writes. It's very much that. You've got Superman, and we know that we're going to have a woman that's Lois for a little while. So, but we don't know anything about how she got those powers. So that's going to be some fun stories. So it's making those super fun stories. Even the new, every book has a jumping on point right now.
Yeah.
So Batman, brand new story, ends on a really cool cliffhanger that's there. Green Lantern, they're in the middle of this civil war or whatever they're doing. And everything is just Green Lantern's as cosmic as it's ever been. And Batman is as Batman-y, gadget-ific as you ever wanted.
But no one applauded because I know we cut Steven off. He was getting ready to say something just as you jumped in. Oh, God.
He doesn't remember.
He doesn't remember?
Sorry.
You lost it? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's...
I was talking, you were springboarding off where I was talking about how the universes were going to end. And the only reason I'm reading that is to see that. It looked like you had a passionate, creative.
No. I think what I was going to say was just that I think this is all this is all story centric. The fact that they shut off from multiverse means that you've got Earth Zero effectively and this absolute universe, which the more we talk about it here, I'm thinking they missed a massive trick here by not calling it apocalyptic Batman or apocalyptic Wonder Woman, apocalyptic Superman, because it's apocalypse, it's dark side, it's all
Or Omega.
or yeah. But just the
Yeah, I guess the word absolute, almost to me, when I think of that, means it's drilled down to
its core. This
Yeah.
is the absolute iteration.
This is what Batman
of
should
this.
always.
Yeah.
They needed a synonym for ultimate. So
Well, to me,
No, I know, and that's I think that's very clear. But I just think from a
and I'm going to say our legal department is going to have to put up this disclaimer on my analysis on this. We're not encouraging anyone to do this, but this Batman
yeah.
is almost like the kid that watched Batman growing up and decided to go be Batman out in the real world. You know,
Right.
worked up
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah,
story.
yeah,
And
sure.
built this almost not necessarily a blueprint, but this is what if Steven put on 80 pounds of solid muscle and just knitted a suit and started jumping around from rooftop to rooftop. We're not advocating that, kids. I'm not telling you to do that.
No, please don't do that.
Let's see.
Yes,
That's
But no, just pop back in there. So I get that. I get that this is story driven. We know that they're bringing back I think it's already started actually, the Elseworlds logo on Elseworlds books.
yes.
Okay. So all of those multiversal stories, they're all happening. It's just that Earth Zero has no connectivity to them. So that kind of tells me, yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's going to be an end to this. If the sales are through the freaking roof and are consistent,
It'll be a while before.
maybe this story might get pulled out a little bit
Instead of 12
longer.
issue, it's 24.
Yeah,
but
we'll
what-
see what we do.
but what happens is by issue 18, it craps out, and the editorial goes, well, crap, we're going to have to finish it up now. And
That's
then,
right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's how you end up with Bendis on 100 issues of Spider-Man, right? Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Like,
but I don't.
And that's one where it ended up being better than the main book.
Yeah, for a while it was.
Yeah, but I never got the sense that the Ultimate Universe was finally. I
Yeah.
always thought that was, I mean, honestly,
There was two.
my memory might be a little fuzzy here, but I remember it kind of being talked about in the Gemis Casada Three-Ring Circus kind of a thing, was that this was a separate publishing initiative. It was for people who were just starting out.
Yeah.
You don't have to get mired down in 50 plus years of continuity. You can jump into the Ultimate. There's very clear branding on the books and go with that. And then for reasons, i.e. story, it was we'll fold them in and then we'll blow it all up. And then here we are back again.
So we needed greater than 0 hits for Scott Snyder to have more than Zack.
What we don't need is Scott Snyder's Sucker Punch.
That's what we don't need.
Okay.
Gorgeous film to look at, but
Girls are cute, but yeah.
absolute vapid. Yeah.
If I had a friend that said the best way to watch is turn the audio off.
Yes. No, you know the best. Actually, you know the best way to watch Sucker Punch? Don't go watch John Carpenter's The Ward instead, because it's pretty much the same idea. Oh, it's in John Carpenter's hands. It was kind of a more interesting story.
So the next 2 Absolute books, we've got Absolute Wonder Woman coming out next. And then we have Absolute Superman after that. Absolute Superman is 3 weeks away, I think. Absolute Wonder Woman, as of the time of our recording, is 1 week out from now.
And you didn't like Absolute Superman.
I did. There are things I liked about it. There are some things that, your mileage may vary, we'll say.
Okay.
So the things I liked about Wonder Woman, the backstory was good. It's not as much like Underworld, like hell is an underworld kind of thing. I thought she was going to be hanging out with Hades. It's not as much that. It's more like hell is a hellscapish island that she's on. So that's what that is. And she's brought up, I can't remember who it was that brought her up, but basically she's not allowed to know her identity as an Amazon. The word Amazon is blocked from her, and she's not able to know what that is until she discovers that on her own over time. And the big blade that she has, the big anime looking sword, that's the Athena blade,
Right.
which is kind of cool. It does some cool stuff. And then her lasso, we don't actually see the lasso in action in the first one, but the lasso, you see it in the last panel. She has it. but what you see is it glows red instead of glowing gold. So instead of the lasso of truth, I read a Kelly Thompson thing. She said it inflicts pain in some way, or her lasso does. And there's been a red lasso, and one of the other Wonder People has a red lasso.
Well, the current, what is it? You've got the lasso of truth. There's the black one, the gold one, and there's a third one.
Might be red.
No, it's not red. I think it's like gray, silver.
I don't know.
As much as I enjoy what Tom King's doing with some of the Wonder Woman, I don't need the emotional spectrum worth of lassos either.
I was hoping it would be like the Metal Men.
That could be now.
Oh man, that's a missed trick. That's what they should have done. Remember Rogue Trooper, the 2000 AD? Each lasso has like its own personality.
Oh yeah,
that would have been fun.
So
yeah, they're all talking, bitching at each other.
So it's that story. I'm not going to spoil that story, but it's very good. It's not quite as complete as Absolute Batman, meaning you end on a cliffhanger, but you don't feel like you've got resolutions. You feel like you end in the middle of an action scene, almost like if you watch the first Hobbit movie. I watched The Hobbit and I was like, wait, we're in the middle of Smaug's coming.
Yeah.
And you just stopped. It's sort of like that is where it ends. So that's the only piece that I didn't like about it. I was like, just give me a complete story in your first issue, please. They didn't do that, but the concepts of what she did, who she is, and the character, and she's still good. She's not like at first when we saw this, I was like, are they going to make evil versions of these people? Are they going to be like
sadistic, like the crime syndicate?
Right? Is it going to be crime syndicate? But it's not that at all. The heroes are still the heroes. They're just slightly altered. And Superman's interesting. Upon reflection, here's what I like about Superman. His upbringing, we don't know a lot about. We won't know about how he lands. Jason Aaron just released an interview yesterday or the day before. We won't know about his landing on Earth until issue 6 or 7. We are catching up to him. You know, the Superman Origins comic where if you got young Superman running around the world doing different things. And this is sort of like that, or the beginning of the Man of Steel movie where he's flying around working on a grabbing ship and saving people here and there. He's blue collar Superman. He sees these workers that are being oppressed in all these different, third world countries. And he's going around and just helping the common man, but in secret. And you just hear stories of that, really. The S is not a symbol of the House of L. It's a symbol of the working class versus the science class in Krypton. So it's very class focused. And the S is, hey, I'm just a normal working man kind of thing.
Interesting.
So this is like blue collar Superman that we got going. And then if I tell you too much more about his upbringing and stuff, it'll spoil some cool things. The one other thing is his suit, like you have to sort of decipher what's happening along the way. And he's got these glowing gauntlet things and his feet and his boots glow as well. And he's got the suit that looks Iron Man-y almost.
Oh, and the in-house ads, once you told me that, I started looking back at the in-house ads, reflect that. You see him glowing around the wrists.
Yeah.
But keep going.
It's definitely in the materials, even in the all-in special, when you see him, there's fire all around him and he's glowing. Well, there's a lot of focus on his solar energy, like how much charge he has. So I think this Superman is going to be a lot more of I've had enough sun exposure, so I'm strong now, or I haven't had enough sun exposure, so I'm not strong now. So, and there's this concept, the Kryptonians would get energy from a thing called sunstone. So I don't know if he's having to be charged through that, or if it's just truly through the sun itself. But we don't even get the cape in the first issue. The first issue doesn't give us a cape or anything, but you do get a feel for who he is. At some point, he's got less control. He's still a young Superman. He doesn't know all the things, but he's also not willing to kill, and he's stopping the bad guys. And at his core, he's still Superman. The mileage may vary on the social commentary, evil corporations, talk going on about climate. And what's the last one that they've had that drove the soul? Some other, trope that people like to complain about is the bane of society. So those are the sorts of things that we saw in there. If what you're interested in is who's this character and what's he doing and is he cool or not, it's a good story. And I think I kind of like the take on Superman. It will help to manage his power level and keep the stories more interesting if he's always got to worry about how much charge he has, right? That's a really interesting way to take Superman's power by the sun. Yes. So I don't have enough sun, or I have too much sun, and something's got to control me.
Something as you're sitting there talking about it, maybe I'm doing a spoiler and don't know it. If from all in, if Darkseid's problem has always been it's a Superman's universe, and I'm going to recreate a universe and I have to have a Superman, I might make him the weakest, the most fallible of the heroes.
It's an interesting idea.
Hey, that's just me. There's no evidence to suggest that was a story idea, but if we go...
It could be now.
It could be.
You never know who's listening.
Yeah, never know.
Damn it.
The other thing they lean into a lot with him is something very core to Superman. He's the last. He's the last son of Krypton. He's alone. He has nobody. He doesn't have his family. He doesn't have his fortress. He doesn't have a home to go to. He's a Bruce Banner wandering around like in the Incredible Hulk TV show, going from town to town and helping the people who are in need, that kind of thing. But he's a lonely wanderer kind of hero, and just leaning into that. I'm all alone here. I don't fit in. I don't belong here. So leaning into that kind of thing with him. It's interesting. I don't love a woe is me Superman, because I want my hopeful Superman. And I like when Superman is the one you can look up to, because I like aspirational heroes. That's my whole thing. But there's some stuff in there that's pretty cool. I love the suit. I love the concept of having to manage his solar power. And I've managed to tell you the essence of that story without spoiling a single thing.
I'm just upset there's no Squeaky the Super Cat.
Give it time.
He does have a Jarvis.
That's it.
He gets a Jarvis.
I want a Super Force.
Oh, hey.
Have you seen Super Pets? The
No,
cartoon?
a couple of my younger granddaughters have watched the hell out of it. But no, I have not watched it, and I always mean to, but there's always something else. But I've heard it was pretty entertaining.
Oh my gosh. It is so, I watched it in 2 sittings. One, it was on when all the little cousins were hanging out Christmas last year. And then I had to go to the hospital. It was a thing for my nephew. And while we're waiting for all the things to wait on, that's what was on there. So I got to catch the last half.
There you go.
Right. While I'm sitting in there in the hospital room. So funny. That was just past week too. So funny. So good. So yeah, I've stopped going to the Disney movies and the animated movies pretty much because I don't have kids that age anymore. But that one I might be tempted to do again. It's pretty good.
Nothing wrong with that. I'll watch Aladdin or
Stick the Jungle Book on it. I'm dead.
They don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah, I'll sit there and watch that.
No, they don't.
No, Encanto was actually pretty good.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Encanto was a pretty good one. It has those vibes, but a lot of it's been terrible.
Yeah.
That's why Disney's struggling right now.
That's why this Give me the 1960s Jungle Book and then the 1970s Rescuers, and I'm actually in a pretty happy place for 3 hours.
Okay, they're struggling because they're not making good stories, and their business is making good stories.
That's a whole podcast all
Yeah, that is. I can go down a whole very unpopular reason why.
Yeah, well, Anyways,
all right, kids.
There you go. So, are you all in? No, it's for you to decide.
I'm as
Cool. Yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
I'm as all in as I've ever been right now. DC Comics has been ramping. Like we started seeing like the goodness of like Tom Taylor on Nightwing, and the Superman books with Josh Williamson were really good. And I've been pretty happy with my whole world in DC right now. Those 2 things are all I need, really. Batman was okay. Detective was okay. I wasn't super excited, but I was still keeping up. But now I feel like Detective, Tom Taylor's moving over to that.
And that's where I'm going to have to. Tom Taylor's leaving Nightwing and Titans. So those may be short-lived for me.
The only thing I'm going to say to this, boys and girls, is that if you've been in this game as long as we had, you know that pride comes before the fall.
And that's true.
And these eras are, if they don't stick the landing, as good as it was, they will be remembered for their faults.
Yes.
Which is not right. And it's a bad way to look at things.
but it is kind of human nature, I think. You know, if you ever have a conversation with somebody about Chris Claremont on X-Men, invariably somebody's going to put up yeah, but it all went a bit crap at the end, didn't it? So, but we'll see. But yeah,
right now we're like we're not quite to the crescendo of like how good like every single week right now, because everything's a jumping on point, October, November, everything feels really good at the moment. And I'm sure some of the stories won't be great and some of the stories will be great. I've read ahead a little bit on some of it with the previews they released. And what I'll tell you is they're staying true to what they said. They're really leaning into the core of what these characters are supposed to be about. So if you're a longtime fan, you will find all that fan service there. And the Absolutes, they're really leaning into like one thing about Absolute Batman is it just feels like they were going for it.
Yeah.
Like they were throwing everything at it, going hard. And it's like watching a game in the playoffs where, you know, somebody's going to the paint every time in basketball. Man, they were full court press going for it in Absolute Batman and the other two that have come out. So I like that.
Yeah, you want to leave it on the field.
And that's it. And they're doing that right now. I like it.
And once again, kids, for your after midnight, you can get our sports talk show that we're putting together just for you. 3 comic book guys that know about as much about sports as we do landing a plane, but we'll give it a go because...
Oh, I love talking about my Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah.
Let's... I think they'll take the pennant this year. We'll see.
Thank you for listening to the Multiverse Comics podcast. If you'd like to meet us in person, you can do that at the Multiverse in Hurst, Texas. That's our brick and mortar shop. If you'd like to shop with us online, you can do that at www.multiverse.shop. You never have to miss a new release again. If you just subscribe with us, you can see how to do that right at the top of the page on multiverse.shop. See you next time.